It's already been in high gear. For our special Monday morning quarterbacks election edition this morning, let's bring in our guests. Brad Polumbo joining us now. Hopefully Christina Antello will join us mid-interview, and if she does, we'll just welcome her and we'll bring her on in because, Brad, we got to have somebody keep you in line this morning. I mean, you're fantastic, but, you know, we got to have the point-counterpoint. Listen, the first thing I want to ask you, Brad, is if you believe the polls out there, what have we learned from 2016, and where are you on that polling stance as of today?
Well, one thing that people get wrong when they talk about the polls in 2016 is they say all the polls were wrong. That's not really true. The polling in key battleground states was wrong, but national polling and some of the other polling was pretty much correct. And I think that pollsters have corrected their methodology, maybe not completely, maybe it's not perfect. It could still be wrong, but it's got to be a lot closer than last time. That's what I think for sure.
It'll be interesting to see how, and obviously we will be Wednesday morning quarterbacking or Thursday morning or perhaps next Monday morning quarterbacking when we get the results of the elections. But the one thing, Brad, that I wanted to key on, the key states are pretty obvious here. You just have to look at where these last-minute campaigns are. And today, for the Trump-Pence campaign, you got 3 rallies in Pennsylvania. You got rallies in Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina. Which states do you see as being the most critical for either candidate?
Look, in my opinion, it all comes down to Pennsylvania. I've been scratching my head and squinting at the map really hard, trying to see a way that President Trump wins re-election without Pennsylvania. And does one exist? Yes. But is it likely? Not really. And Biden is still ahead in the polls in Pennsylvania. So President Trump's going to have to pull out all the stops and try to win that state if he's really, I think, going to be successful and win re-election, because right now it's an uphill climb.
President Trump, one of the places he will be visiting is essentially Scranton, Pennsylvania, which, he's made a lot of news about that. Look, I've lived there, and it would not surprise me at all if the majority of that region, even though Joe Biden is from there, votes for President Trump. That's just the makeup of that region. So do any of this come into play? Because we seem to see the candidates rallying in these places where they already have a strong majority or strong support.
Well, elections are all about turnout, so that's why they're doing that. I mean, they've got to get their people to the polls in the middle of a pandemic, and that's no easy task, right? So ultimately, I mean, Joe Biden could be polling ahead by huge amounts among registered voters, but it's among the electorate that shows up to vote on election day that will ultimately decide the future of this country. And so both candidates got to do everything they can right now to get their people out to vote. And that's what you see them doing. That's why they're talking to their supporters and in places where they've got heavy bases of support right now.
So what do you make of the record turnout for early voting so far, Brad? Because we've seen the numbers, and in Virginia in particular, and then you hear from folks who are saying, well, look, it's typically the Democrats who will come out and vote early. Republicans will vote on Election Day. Do you read anything into the record amounts of early votes?
Well, maybe I'm a pessimist and maybe I'm a grumpy old man, but I actually don't read too much into it. People are saying, look, youth turnout is so high. I think that's because a lot of people are early voting because of the pandemic and they don't want to get stuck in huge lines on election day, or a lot of people are mail-in voting, absentee voting. I think so. I wouldn't draw too huge conclusions from what we've seen so far because this election is rather unique. I do think we'll see turnout up a bit this year, but I don't think it'll be anything as monumental as you might think just looking at the figures.
Well, Brad, if you're a grumpy old man, then I'm already 2 steps from not making it to the next election. So let's not go too far too fast. I want to welcome Christina Antello into the conversation. She has joined us now. Christina, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want you to kind of weigh in as best as you can. We were just talking with Brad about critical states here leading up to the election. If you believe in the polls and where you think based on early voting, what sign that might make at this point.
I think it makes a big difference because I think Democrats are highly motivated to get out early. They knew that they were told early on to make their plan to get out and vote. And you're seeing that in states across the country that don't even normally have normally this enthusiasm. Like Texas is really shocking to me. But here in Virginia, like I went for a walk on Saturday and accidentally ran into an early polling place and there was no line. And so we went ahead and got it out of the way. And I think there's a lot of folks that are looking to try to get out there and get it done early, similar to what your guest said earlier. But I do think that it's Democrat. I mean, nobody kind of has this kind of enthusiasm unless you're looking for change. And I think that change is coming. And I think that's because they want to go for Vice President Biden.
Christina, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up. But I do want to ask you a quick answer here. We talked about some of the states that are obviously of critical importance where you're seeing the candidates that are rallying today, including Pennsylvania, which is key. A lot of talk about places like Florida and Texas. Do you see any surprise states, maybe something that is not what we were expecting?
I think Georgia's the one that I'm looking at with those 2 Senate seats up for grabs. There's been a lot of attention down there, and I think Democrats kind of see not only is that the top of the ticket, but that there are 2 potential Senate seats to pick up as well, which would help us in the Senate. So that's the one I'm looking at with a whole lot of attention down there.
All right, Christina and Brad, thanks for joining us this morning for our last Monday Morning Quarterback before the election, but we'll have more Monday Morning Quarterbacks. Hope to see you both again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Angie?